Today we are diving into a really fascinating and frankly pretty provocative idea for the future of work. It's called the Honey Badger Management Framework, and it's all about how we can get teams of humans and AI to not just work together, but to actually thrive in really high-pressure, chaotic situations. But let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of this whole thing. What if the secret to building a super high-performing, innovative team was to split it right down the middle and make the two sides compete against each other? I know, it sounds kind of crazy, but it's a core piece of this puzzle we need to unpack.
Okay, so what is this thing? Officially, the Honey Badger Management Framework, or HBMF, is a systems-theoretic operating model. Now, that's a mouthful, but what it really means is that this isn't just a list of management tips. No, it's a complete, interconnected system, designed specifically for those messy, chaotic environments where you don't even know what the right answer is yet. Now, to really analyze this framework, we're going to use this brilliant mental model called the Lego fallacy. The idea is super simple. Even if you have a pile of perfectly designed, individually strong Lego bricks, that doesn't guarantee they'll all click together to build something that's stable. So let's use that idea to see if the Honey Badger framework actually holds up when we try to build it.
So first things first, let's take this whole framework apart. We need to look at each one of those individual Lego bricks. We've got to understand what the four core pillars of the Honey Badger framework really are before we can see how they fit together.
So what are these four big ideas? Well, first, we've got incredibly fast work sprints. Second, there's that controversial internal competition we just talked about. Third is the idea of formally treating AI as an actual contributing teammate. And fourth, building in redundancy on purpose. That's the basic blueprint.
All right, now for the really fun part. We're going to put on our investigator hats and actually grade the scientific evidence behind each one of these pillars. We're going to see how strong each individual Lego brick really is, based on decades of research from economics, psychology, and even engineering.
So, our first pillar is what they call short, cancelable cycles. And listen, we're not talking about your standard 2-week agile sprints here. HBMF is talking about super aggressive 7-day cycles. The whole point is to make decisions faster, learn quicker, and, this is key, cut your losses the second an idea shows it isn't working.
The theory behind this is absolutely rock solid. It's grounded in serious economic ideas like real options, which basically says that having the flexibility to change your mind is incredibly valuable all by itself. But the big risk here is purely practical. To move this fast without creating total chaos, you have to have truly elite-level automation and discipline. So the verdict for our first Lego brick is a very, very strong A-. The principles are mature, they're widely accepted, and we know they work in high-performing organizations. This is a really solid piece of our foundation. Now, for Pillar 2, governed competition. This is where things get really, really controversial. The framework literally calls for splitting a team in two and having them both solve the exact same problem with a kind of winner-take-all prize at the end.
The idea comes from something called tournament theory, which does suggest that these kinds of prizes can boost how hard people work. But, and this is a huge but, the danger is massive. There is overwhelming evidence from lab studies that this kind of pressure cooker environment often leads to sabotage, unethical behavior, and people just refusing to help each other out.
Because of that huge downside, the evidence grade here is a much more cautious C+ to B-. Any benefit you might get is completely dependent on having incredibly strong oversight to stop the competition from just turning toxic. This is, you could say, a very wobbly Lego brick.
Okay, so we've got one solid brick and one really wobbly one. What about the third? This one brings in the bots, making AI an accountable teammate. And this is way more than just using an AI assistant for a little help here and there. It means formally baking AI into the workflow where its output is a real part of the team's success or failure.
And here's the crucial thing to understand. We have a mountain of evidence that AI boosts individual productivity. That part is clear. What we don't have is good data on what it does to team dynamics, to collaboration, or to the long-term quality and maintainability of the stuff being produced.
So for this pillar, we're giving it a solid B. The evidence is definitely promising, and it's a super hot area of research right now, but those long-term and team-level effects are still a really significant unknown. You could call it a high-tech brick, but we're just not sure about its durability yet.
All right, so the AI brick is promising, but its long-term strength is still a question mark. Our final pillar, deliberate redundancy, takes a totally different tack. By having those two subteams working on the same problem, the framework intentionally builds in overlapping skills and backup capacity.
Now, this idea is borrowed directly from reliability engineering, where it's used all the time to prevent catastrophic failures. Think about having multiple engines on an airplane. But in a human system, that redundancy comes with a cost. It creates coordination overhead and can definitely lead to people feeling like things are unfair or inefficient.
So for this final piece, we're landing on a B+. The core principles for building resilient systems are really strong, but whether it actually works in a human organization depends heavily on how you pull it off.
Okay, deep breath. We've graded our 4 Lego bricks. Some are definitely stronger than others. But now we have to go back to that Lego fallacy. We've got our individual pieces, but will they actually click together to form a stable, functioning structure?
And this brings us to the single biggest tension in this entire system. On one hand, you have governed competition, which is designed to crank up performance. But on the other hand, we know that true innovation requires psychological safety, the feeling that you won't be punished for making a mistake or speaking up. So how on earth can you feel safe when you are in a direct, high-stakes competition with your own teammates?
This conflict is so powerful, it could literally shatter the whole model. But the HBMF proposes a very unique solution to this problem, a special role that's designed to act like the glue, holding these conflicting forces together. And that role is called the guru. Now, the guru isn't a manager. They're not making decisions about the product. Think of them as a neutral referee, an auditor. Their one and only job is to make sure the rules of the framework are being followed, that the competition stays healthy, and, most critically, to guard the team's psychological safety. And this is a very active, hands-on job. The guru is constantly monitoring for bad behavior, they're resolving conflicts, they're making sure things are fair. They even have the power to reset the competition to prevent grudges from building up. They are the essential human fail-safe, designed specifically to manage the risks that the other pillars create.
So, where does that leave us with all this? Well, the original paper is refreshingly honest in its conclusion. The Honey Badger Management Framework is not a proven off-the-shelf product. It's what they call a testable organizational hypothesis. The individual ideas are all defensible, but the complete system now needs to be put to the test in the real world.
And that leaves us with one last really fascinating question to chew on. This whole radical system, the intense speed, the internal competition, the AI teammates, it all seems to depend on the effectiveness of this one human role, the guru, whose whole job is to maintain trust through radical transparency. So maybe that's the real takeaway here. Maybe the key to unlocking our future with AI isn't just about better technology, but about better, more transparent, and maybe even more courageous human governance.